enormous pock marks on our vehicle, even though we were not even there for 72 hours. I'm talking like under 24 hours. I've seen him pull up to where groups of RVs are parked with like a stack of the green warning stickers and just go and tag each individual like he's looking for RVs. I just kind of feel like that's a target towards the homeless population as well. I was told by a sergeant that what he does is he responds to each phone call individually and that those are all complaint phone calls, but I asked him if there's any way to prove that. I asked if I could get a list of all the complaints that came in on my RV. He said there was no way to prove that. I said, so there's no way to prove whether he's just harassing me or if he's actually getting a complaint on me. He said no. And I don't want to say he's a liar or call out his honesty, but I have a hard time believing each one of those came from a complaint when I see him going down the row. I don't know that a complaint came on each of those individual RVs. I kind of want to change your view on homelessness as well.
My view?
People in general, I'm speaking in general, not your view specifically, but I mean the general view in this community. We're not all scary. We're not all on drugs. A lot of us work. I dump my RV at New Brighton Beach. I pay the $10 that you're supposed to pay to dump it. I've heard numerous stories of like sabotage, making people look bad when they're not doing anything. I've heard of groups of people dumping trash on the ground and then calling the cops and trying to pin it on people. I've had a guy knock on my RV in the nighttime and scared us to death, screaming, "Get the F out." He was drunk. I called the cops. They didn't even take it seriously. They asked if my RV would like to file a complaint. I just don't feel supported. And I feel like the tickets and the complaining and things like that is like a push towards taking away what little I have. Why would you want to keep ticketing me to the point where I might not be able to pay for it, end up in the Ross camp or something? That's not a helpful way of looking at this, and that's going to make people's situation worse. I've heard stories of people, and I started this because it starts with the warnings. I've gotten a couple citations, I paid a couple of tickets, but it starts like this, and the next thing you know, you're a target, and you've got $1,000 worth of tickets, $1,800 worth of tickets. I want to speak out because I can't afford that. If that happens to my family, we'll lose everything we have, and we'll be at the Ross camp. So that's why I'm here.
You want to comment on that now?
I can wait and then comment overall.
How about individual comments? Because Alicia, do you want individual comments? How do you feel?
I would like everybody to get a chance while you have time.
That's what he wants to do.
Yeah, just go to everybody.
My name is Veronica Cruz. I have that FMC motor coach. I lost my home because I have cancer. I'm on SSI. I don't make very much money. I don't have enough money to afford a place to rent. I live on $1,000 a month, and I don't bother anybody. No one comes in and out of my coach ever. I don't leave trash around it. I don't dump stuff. I'm very, and as you can see, I'm very neat and well presented. And I park on Fair Avenue, and I used to work before I got too sick to work at 5 feet from the moon. And so while I would park my coach there because it was convenient for working. And then I could stay there moving it around so I wouldn't do the 72-hour thing. And then they put up the no parking midnight to 6 a.m. And they've done that. They've systematically gone from Bay all the way to Natural Bridges. In every street, they've put up no parking midnight to 6 a.m. And there's no place to park. And it was my understanding that Delaware initially was zoned for trucks, vehicles that could camp there and sleep there overnight. And it's beyond my comprehension why, when there's nothing there,
You guys,
there's no
talking.
there's no residential stuff. It's all business. No one's there in the evening. And yeah, I know a lot of people give people in RVs a bad name. There are those that create the problems that we face right now. But those, I think, are a minority. there are those of us who have no other alternative but to live in an RV. And what are we supposed to do?
Thank you.
I mean, it needs to be addressed. I was also under the understanding that according to the Coastal Commission, there has to be a certain amount of easement from the beach to a certain way past it that has 24-hour access to the ocean. And those signs are in direct violation of the Coastal Commission.
A lot of them in this town are.
A lot of them in this town are. And, you know, and all along the beach, there's no parking midnight to 6 a.m. And it just doesn't make any sense. You keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, but you don't give us any solution. We need a solution. And all the money that people have to pay for tickets, you know, I have $1,000 worth of tickets. And when it comes time for me to renew my vehicle in July, I'm not going to be able to do that because they don't have that kind of money. My registration is $180. Last time last year when I registered my car, I had $400 and some odd worth of tickets on top of that. And fortunately, I had the money at the time to pay that. Okay.
Can I see a show of hands, how many people want to talk?
Yeah, you're next.
Over here back where you're not looking.
Let's get this
So we got about
He has a lot to say
three more
right here.
people.
Yes,
Okay.
I have,
What's your name?
I'm Randolph Aiden Tolley III. I've lived in this town about 18 years now. I've been not adopted, but partially by a family adopted. It's a local family, the Roberts. And I got a car about a year ago, so I moved from living in a bush to with the Roberts, and I got a car. We don't have a house because their house got bulldozed. But I'm living in my car, and I'm getting harassed. Not so much, but I got shot in the head. The police took all my clothes, and they took 5 ounces of my medicine. I have not gotten anything back from this medicine. I am not a rich man. I cannot afford 5 ounces of marijuana, but that was what was taken from me, along with my $1,000, about an $500 necklace, and the rest of my clothing, which I have not got back from the police.
When was that?
I don't know. I was shot about 6-8 months ago. And
shot
we
the
have
police didn't-
no, the police didn't shoot me. I was shot in the head up on West Cliffs.
Destruction of property.
Well, are you an officer? Are you sure of that? Okay, please let me finish. I was shot in the head. I haven't got my property back. I haven't got my clothes back. I haven't got one penny for my compensation of being a citizen who lives here and was shot in the head. What are my rights? Thank you.
Okay. Next.
I believe we got some folks back here.
I'd like my 5 ounces of marijuana back if I could get that, officer. Officer, that 5 ounces of marijuana?
My name's
Thank you, that'd be
Leland
great.
Pollock.
That'd be fucking great.
I have a similar problem that someone earlier was saying. I was parked on the west side in 2016 and I got 10 tickets, so and my registration's out of date as of August. So what I'm worried about is I have a cat, you know, it's my house, everything I own is in it. And I'm worried now I can't go anywhere with this registration out of date, that I'm going to get pulled over, it's going to be taken from me. I mean, I'm like really scared right now. This is like scary. So anyway, I'm hoping not to be handicapped, you know, forever. I'm going to get a knee surgery pretty soon, and then maybe in the next couple of years. But right now I'm on SSI, and it's only $1,000 a month. And I mean, just to put gas and buy groceries, it's not. I mean, I always got to work part time somewhere, and there's not much I can do. So You're also ill, right? no, I'm all right. Are you? Okay. That's all right. No, I just had a bad back surgery, and this leg doesn't work, and it's probably never gonna. It's been a few years, and my other knee needs replacement, so that's where I'm at. I'm in pain all the time, and so anyway, I don't know what else to add to it other than is there a way that I could pay my registration and then make payments on the side to the tickets, because they won't let me do it at the DMV. It's just all or nothing, and I need to be registered really bad. So anyway, whatever you can do to help.
And again, your name?
Leland Pollock.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to congratulate the police department here because they've been very, very effective in helping me. I'm really curious about the piece of land where the house sits over the ocean on West Cliff Drive. It's the only one that sits on the cliff on the ocean. and there's no signs there when I park. The ranger told me that was state land. I don't know what the deal is. No.
So your question is?
Can people park there without? Yeah.
Is there any place we can all park just overnight? I know more will come if we start.
This place has no.
something else,
This
too.
place has no signs, and the ranger said that just move periodically and it'll be okay. So that's what I wanted.
Okay, Alicia, and then I think we're gonna...
Wait, Cynthia hasn't spoken.
Oh, okay.
yet. Go ahead. Hang on.
But we should go first. Oh, I was just gonna again also propose Delaware. Other than the no parking midnight to 6 a.m. signs, I see no reason not to be able to park on Delaware. People mostly park there during the day anyways. The problem is then we're having to force to like residential and wherever we can find per se in the nighttime. And that's when we're getting the tickets, the green tickets, all those things, the violations. If we would just be allowed to park on Delaware at nighttime, there wouldn't be a problem. There's not a big trash problem right now, so I don't see that being an issue. We could still abide by the 72-hour rule. We could even put a couple of garbage cans out there. I mean, and not turn it per se into a campground, but just a safe nighttime place to park. I feel like we could at least even try that out
And I think you
and
once said
see what
that you'd be
happens.
willing to help
And
supervise
I
that.
would be willing to manage that situation.
I'd be willing to help.
Okay, last
Hi, I'm Cynthia Berger with Santa Cruz Tenants Association, and I have been contacted by several of the people here when they were renters. Renters, people in RV, we're non-property owners. I call us now NPOs. We're all one thing. We're not renters and people in RVs and homeless people. We're NPOs, and we need to start using that thought. The city is about to get over $9 million, and it's supposed to be, it's going to get a large chunk of that, and it's supposed to be for homelessness prevention. It should go to helping you, there should be a fund to help you pay your tickets and your registrations. So you need to get together, you need to go to the city council, you need to write to them, and you need to, because there's other people who have their fingers on all that money coming in, but you need to let them know that homelessness prevention includes keeping people in their vehicles, in their legal vehicles, so they don't have thousands of dollars worth of tickets. The second thing is there's now a hotline that you can call in the middle of the night if you're hassled, and I will take a report. If I don't answer it, I will get a text message. It's a Google Voice number, and I encourage anybody to just pass the number. It's the tenants hotline. It's 222-0359.
Say it again.
222-0359. You don't have to write it down right here. It's online. Just look up Santa Cruz Tenants, and you can call me 24 hours. I'll look at it, and if it's an emergency, yeah, 222-0359. You can get it online. I have a website as well. And so I just want to put that out there. We are NPOs. We're non-property owners. We are not second-class fucking citizens. We are first-class citizens. We have a right to stay here. I've been here since 1965. We don't have to move to Fresno, although many letters to the Sentinel in the last 2 years have said everybody who's a poor person is replaceable, and hopefully they won't be replaced, right, once they're gone. So this is a fight, and so thank you so much for coming here. And Chief Mills, I've gotten many calls from tenants, and they've called the police when they're having an issue with their landlord, and when the police have come, they have immediately taken the landlord's part. And I've actually had a personal, conversation with you about this a few months back. But some of these people end up in the streets because they had an assault by their landlord, and they have disabled children, and they're in the streets, and I've witnessed them being told to move along by the police because they don't have a car, they're too poor. So this is cruel and horrible environment for disabled people on the streets here.
Yes, it
I got
is.
shot in the head, I can't get my stuff back.
Okay,
And I wanted to put it, I've been living here my whole life.
we want to thank everybody who's...
I'd like to also quickly dispel the rumor that if you do provide services that people will come here in troves, it's not true. Most of our homeless are local people that have lived here for a very long time, and we don't want to leave our home.
Okay, listen, the chief was just delivered a lot of information.
So he's going to talk.
And so let's give him a chance to respond.
Go ahead, Andy.
I think I have most of it in my head. You may have to remind me of some of the things we said. First of all, I want you to know that I understand that many of you are in these situations no fault of your own. You told me about how you fell into hard times and you wind up out on the street. You have cancer. All local people with some very difficult things. I understand that. I empathize with you. I can't say that I completely understand because I've not been there. But I do empathize with those who are less fortunate at this time. And we try to construct our policy to do two things. One is to understand the plight of some, the most vulnerable of our community, but at the same time, and just as important, is to maintain some level of social order. And, this is a group of 20 people, right? Who are, here to talk and discuss about, what it's like to be homeless. Last week I was in a meeting of 100 people. Furious. And I don't mean upset, I mean screaming mad about people dumping their raw sewage in their neighborhood.
How often does that happen?
Just let me finish. I mean, I gave you guys a chance to talk, and I'll be happy to respond to questions later. Dumping raw sewage on their street and throwing syringes out of their motorhomes. Now, I agree with you. It is not all homeless people.
That's why I like to manage.
Why are you going to put the blanket statement?
So it is not all homeless people. I think there's not a person in Santa Cruz that doesn't understand that. Even if they're on the throw them all out of town side. People understand that many of the people are local. People understand that many of the people are in circumstances beyond their control, and that not all homeless people are criminals. And so we understand that. We try to strike a balance in the police department of towing people's homes. And the reason we do that is because a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons is we know that if we put the person out of the motor home, now we have another person on the street. That doesn't make a great deal of sense. But at the same time, as a police chief and as a police officer, I have a responsibility to my community. And when I get hundreds of emails and complaints and calls from people saying, hey, this is out of control over here, at this location. And so I've got to respond to that. Now, a year before the Martin versus Boise decision that came out from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, we implemented policy because we were pretty sure this was coming down the pike. That we would allow people to sleep at nighttime. And then we would do enforcement during the day. You could see our camping tickets fell off dramatically as a result. However, our trespassing tickets went up significantly because you just can't pull up somebody's porch as a place to sleep. And we all know that this happens here.
On public property.
We do not write tickets for trespassing on public property. And you know you're very well.
Let's not interrupt.
Let him finish.
So the point is, we understand these are policy decisions that have to come from the elected officials. The county has to work with the city government, and I got to give a lot of credit to the city manager and the assistant city manager working with the CAO and the assistant CAO to really bridge that gap and to try to construct policy that works for everybody. Tina Shull in particular has been way out in front of this, looking at what we're going to do with the $11 million or $10 million, whatever it is coming down, to figure out what are we going to do with this problem. We don't hesitate to tell people this is not going away. We have to figure out how do we manage it, how do we take care of people. Now, having said all this, let me just give a couple other caveats.
I have a small question. This is about you and your family.
I want to hear him.
It's not question time yet, that's all.
Let me finish this.
Please.
One small caveat here. For those that think that they can live any way they want in this city and do what they want and steal people's property and use meth and go off the
like
deep end
landlords?
downtown and hit people with golf clubs and do all the other lunacy things that you know some do.
Oh, yes.
We will take a hard-nosed stand on that, and there will be none of that, and we will deal with it every time. Now, the courts have their responsibility, probation has their responsibility, but we are going to draw that hard line in the sand.
Exactly.
We will take care of people's needs, we will refer them to services, but we will not allow public disorder.
You stop
Again,
ticketing them, that's the
again,
question.
no, I'm not going to stop
Robert,
ticketing
come
them.
on.
Of course, 72 hours.
So, the point is this.
That's the issue.
There has to be
Then ask
both
the
sides.
person when he's
There
done.
has to be
too.
control, but there also has to be sensitivity to the needs of people. And as far as your particular situation is concerned,
She wanted to know what people complained about her, and the police did not have to report the people that complained about her.
okay, I'll get
They
to you in a
don't have to
second.
do that.
So your particular
That means you're
situation,
free to do what
we
you
get
want.
scores
He's gonna answer
of
questions.
complaints, both via email through the neighborhood policing teams and as well as phone calls from people complaining about people parking over there on natural bridges. I have walked there at midnight and seen the problems myself.
That's not where I park.
Okay, I'm just telling you, that natural bridges, Delaware, Swan, and that whole area over there. So there is.
Not time yet, not
There is
time
the
yet,
need.
not time yet.
There is the need for people to park.
Now violating law.
There is the need for that. We understand that. We were working on a solution that got submarine. So we are actively working on those solutions. And we hope that they come, not in the not too distant future.
Can you answer me this?
I want you to be.
Take you in a little while. Do not an officer have to have a criminal reason to approach any person?
Don't you have to be polite to authority?
Are they better than complaints? No, they are not.
No.
There's a mistake.
Because I'll tell you
We're
what.
all equal human
He
beings.
didn't interrupt you.
Because
He didn't interrupt
Forget
you.
the procedure, let's get to the substance of it.
questions and answers.
When everybody quiets down, we're gonna take questions, so.
That's not a deal. They
Focus on the crime
relax.
that's happening. I also see that. But that's my thing, is like, is there a way to focus on the ones that like
Right,
say
exactly that. That
have
was my
half
next
their
thing.
belongings, on the corner? Clearly they're meth users. I mean, you can see that I don't look like
mean,
that.
that's an obvious difference.
Yes, I don't want to say bad things about people, but I do feel like there's an obvious difference when you walk up to me. So to use, I think you're a drug dealer, to approach my RV or something like that is kind of like off base. It's harassment. I've had that one used on me. Like things like that. Focus on the issues that you talked about. If you see sewage, and this is what I've said online to people, if you see sewage, if you see heroin, if you're witnessing domestic violence, absolutely call the police. If you see somebody just parking there minding their own business, they might be making dinner for their kids. There's no reason to call the police. Is there some way to weed this out? And so, like, if you're addressing these complaints from citizens or whatever, like for me, for instance, you drive by, you don't see any reason to stop and talk to me, should be what I feel should happen, unless you see any of those things mentioned. So I feel like that's kind of like where you should maybe approach going with that, and I'm asking like if you could maybe try to do that, focus on the ones
Simply
that are a
ask your
problem
officers
and ignore
to
people
notice
like
the
me.
good ones. Isn't that pretty simple?
I hear you clearly. We still have to deal with the amount of people parking in front of people's homes that
What does this have to do with you guys?
becomes problematic. Okay, so again, the solution is just not parking wherever we want. The solution is us as a governmental society, and a society, not just the government. I mean, everybody in society, institutions, including the churches. There's all kinds of people involved in this, including nonprofit organizations like this.
That's what I'm asking. Give us that
help
place
find
to
the
park.
locations.
Give us that place.
So my point is that's the solution. That is not just saying, well, we're just going to ignore this and let people do whatever they want when they want. So, but I do appreciate very clearly
When they are-
That's not a solution. That takes time.
There's two parts of what you're saying. Like, I don't park in front of people's houses. I make a direct thing to not do that. Even though I've not done that, like I've parked like directly at the end of Woodrow, which is, as you know, not in front of anybody's house. It's kind of facing the ocean. There's houses across the street. There's houses down the street, but there's no house in front of my
Will she be
RV.
served tonight?
And
Will she get a ticket
and I've
tonight?
gotten
Will she get a
letters.
72-hour move like that?
Yeah, let's,
So I'm
That's
just
my
wondering,
question.
if we could hurry up and get a place
yeah,
like that we can park.
we can't wait for the nonprofit organizations and the nice organizing, because it's a crisis for people out on the streets,
And also
who are not doing anything wrong, who
illegal
aren't,
parking spots
everybody,
that
the
we found.
95% who are not dumping their sewage,
One more time.
you know?
Would you please
Why are you
raise your
talking
hand
about dumping sewage
so
to
he
these
can answer
people here?
questions? So,
There's nothing to do with you.
You've been wanting to ask the question.
Simple as that. Is it not legal to park?
He looks at you and he says
Are
sewage.
you
Even
allowed to
if
just
you're in
say,
front of
I don't want
somebody's
you
house.
here? Which is what you just said. You've got to do something about moving these people along, but they have a right to park there for 72 hours, do they not?
If it was my
Yes or no,
Prius,
sir?
it wouldn't be a problem.
Okay?
That's the question. Go ahead, Andy.
So, a vehicle can be parked in a location for up to 72 hours.
So why do you
Just
harass?
hold on a second. Do you want an answer or not?
I
Okay. A vehicle can be parked in a location for up to 72 hours. So what happens frequently is there are many other violations that we do go and ticket. If a registration is expired, if a windshield's cracked, if it's not a front plate, if there's those are all violations of the law. If you don't like the law, contact the legislature and have it changed.
But
that is our
I'm
responsibility to
talking
do
about
that.
your comment that you have a right to come move them along because you don't like them in the neighborhood. But yet they have that right to park there.
Don't make up stuff I didn't say.
You have a tape recording of it. You just said that. We have a problem, we have to move them along.
I did not say that.
didn't
What I
say
said
that.
is, what we have to do is, if we get a complaint from a community member, we are going to go and evaluate it. How do I know how long that vehicle's been parked there? So what I need to do is go into ask the person, contact the person and say, how long have you been here? Oh, I've been here 48 hours.
That's not what
Great.
your officers do.
I'm going to check the tire. If it doesn't move in 48 hours, then I'm going to come back and tow it. So
But that's not what your officers do.
that is what they're doing.
No, they come up
Not
calling you drug
exactly.
dealers.
That's not
They're very
exactly
rude.
what's
And the
happening.
truth is, they should know someone after one or two contacts. Don't
With all
you
due
think?
respect, that's
How
not
can an
exactly
officer
how
not
they're
remember
treating
someone
us.
after one or two
I've got
contacts?
100 cops.
I see 1,000
And we've
people.
got 1,000
people
we've
here.
got 1,000
I work at a
people.
museum. I get people, and I can remember people months later and state their name.
Okay,
And I go through thousands of people.
Thank you.
Ursula's next, and then, okay, next. and-
Not to mention you have a database.
Okay,
keeps
all right, it's your turn now.
Ursula, now let's cover up his lies.
She's got the floor.
I have most concerns for people who have
I
disabilities.
can't hear a word she's
Okay,
saying.
that's what, I'm sorry.
Well, then move
I
closer
have,
and be quiet.
my most concerns are people with disabilities.
Right.
And I include with disabilities people who are meth addicts. These people need help too. Shouldn't be thought of as something horrible. What it needs to be is to be thought of as a disease,
Okay.
okay? Like diabetes. Really honest and truly, if the problem is sewage and needles, that's telling you where you need to start to solve. They need to be able to have places where they can dump their sewage. And if you find human waste other places, human waste is going into garbage cans all over the community. You've got baby diapers. You've got the old people.
got, like,
Yes,
bathrooms and
I have a
garbages.
mother who's 95 years
Okay.
old and disabled. She just had a stroke a month ago. Believe me, I wrap everything up and put it in plastic bags separate, but it still goes in my garbage can.
Nope.
This is happening everywhere.
Besides, he's not gonna get it.
Please put out containers
go to court.
for people who live on the streets. Please have a place for their sewage.
That's pretty simple.
Thank you for that.
Go file.
Okay,
That is a good,
So, my name's Wes. I'm from Salinas. Just curious. The Martin versus Boise basically says you can't prosecute them, right? Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Got you.
It says you can't prosecute them in court, give them a ticket, but you can still tell them to leave and take everything they got. I've seen it happen in other places, so maybe not here. Maybe you're the exception. Well, I'm curious. There's like 3,000 or 4,000 homeless people. If there are owner-permissed places for people to be, and you need to drive it to volunteer capacity, as many people are willing to be in those places, do you see that as a viable option? Do you see the city administration, the city council possibly pushing some kind of policy like that? Because if people are outside and they got no alternative to be, and public sidewalk and street is public, so already the 72-hour thing and living in your car, that's already supposed to be vacated, especially if you're disabled. The Ross encampment, we need more of those. Sign them up for services, and in that way we can separate the harmless from the homeless. And we'd love to jack for fun. I don't know why.
Any comments? Okay. Veronica, did you ask your question?
Yeah, Veronica asked. She talked a lot.
Okay.
Did
Did you ask your question? Okay. Okay, and then Robert has a question.
Who's next?
You are.
Your name?
Chief Mills, first I want to thank you for your program of opening up the chief's office to 15-minute appointments with the public. That's one of the most outstanding things I've seen for community policing basically in my life. So thank you for that. At that meeting, the chief and I discussed the outline of a redevelopment fund for the Poganip and Wilder Ranch. And the objective is to have somewhere between 500 and 800 camping spots with pre-approved campfires and a reservation system, much as we see at places like Brighton Beach State Park, although that's not an ideal location for a drive-through Hooters. So, point is, That'd be a great idea. well, there could be 7 Hooters franchises in the county. We can discuss that some other time. That could be a lot of jobs. I'm also all for having a new dress code instead of having a corporate robot dress code.
Don't get lost.
Okay, so also when it comes to this issue, there's some new solutions I believe that will be immediately worthy, Chief. I hope you'd give your comments on this. So there's a game construct that would work real well with this game of whack-a-mole that we play with the complaints on one side and the RV dweller on the other side. So it can turn into a slow-motion game of Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man. And every time a goblin gets near you and puts a complaint, tapes it to the window of your RV, that can turn into a point in the Miss Pac-Man game. And of course, all these data points can be tracked on a website, and they all correlate to real data points, so on and so forth. What that would do is it would render visible in a helpful way in real time with GPS coordinates and possibly pre-designated parking spots to distribute the parking load in a way that doesn't overburden particular intersections. There's the risks at intersections. I invited the fire chief to come to this event today, but not directly, but you can believe me, there are some intersections where, and I'll close now, the fire hydrant placement and the ability to deliver yards of water per second
Thank you, Mitch.
becomes important.
Okay, I've got a question. Okay,
Go ahead.
Robert's got questions.
Well, one of the primary questions that came up at the meeting yesterday and the subsequent previous meetings was 72 hours. Now the issue is whether police and whether you can have really an effective impact on your officers, whether they are unfairly addressing people and telling them to move along or responding to complaints that are simply based upon aesthetic preferences, and then themselves assisting in this by finding the kinds of violations you mentioned, bald tires and so forth. In other words, it seems to me that if you're going to really enforce this fairly, you'll have the 72-hour, they'll come and they'll mark the tire, and you'll say, unless you have evidence, that you tell the individuals in their homes, if they have evidence that they've been there for 72 hours, they want to testify under penalty of perjury in court that that's the case, on pain of making a false police report, then you will go up and tell them, you've been here 72 hours. you know, if you stay much longer, we'll have to give you a citation. But you can also advise those in houses, or direct your officers to advise those in houses. If you make a false police report, you're culpable of a misdemeanor. I mean, that's where that's at. So, I mean, a question to you is, will you essentially ask your officers to be much more cautious, given the housing crisis that people face? Because we have as you know, has been
more softly.
Right, discretion.
there are no immediate prospects for a car park. You heard how the one went down some months ago. So, in the interim, will you direct your officers to only ticket upon real violation and not look for violations, and also treat with skepticism complaints by people in the neighborhoods who are housed? They have privacy, they have dignity, they have what they need, and they don't need to move along the van in front of their house if they don't want there, just because they feel they're empowered to do so by an active minority and by some people in the police department. Will you be willing to do that?
Kindness
So-
and generous.
So I want to make sure that we're pretty clear on what we're discussing here. The law is you can't park any vehicle on any street in the city, in the state actually, for more than 72 hours without moving it a substantial distance.
Correct.
So a tenth of a mile is kind of what we kind of judge. So when we get complaints, it's sometimes specific, as in a white vehicle with black lettering. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's, hey, all the vehicles in this location. So what we're going to do when people call us is say we're going to go out there and check. And we have a technique to make sure that the vehicle has not been moved. So what we don't do is, if somebody calls and says, hey, that vehicle's been there 72 hours, we just don't go out and ticket and tow that vehicle. We have to prove it ourselves to make sure that we are sure that vehicle hasn't moved. I don't care what the citizen thinks.
What's the technique?
I'm not going to go into that.
Find out the facts.
But what we do is we make sure that vehicle has not moved 1 inch. And when we're confident of that, then after 72 hours, we can go back and tow that vehicle, providing a variety of other things have to take place. So of the 2,051 vehicles that we tagged last year for 72-hour violation, we towed, I think, 291. And a lot of those were just abandoned vehicles. So that's what it actually looks like citywide. I have a guy that works on that, and he does a fantastic job. He's very compassionate. He understands the department philosophy.
You're talking about Habe?
Yeah, Joe Habe. And he understands the department philosophy.
Shout out to Joe!
Of making sure that we're not going to do more harm. Now, there's a variety of other options for this. There's a KOA campground that people can go to. I know it's expensive. Okay, and people may not have that money.
It may be full.
It may be full, but this time of year it's
They
certainly
also have
not.
time limits.
We also have a vehicle.
You can also work out. You could also work out a deal
exception.
with, like, for instance, a local business, and say, "Can we park on your lot? And I'll pay you $5 a week." You know, there's a variety of other things that can be done. There's also a full county people can park in. If you know there's going to be a heavy focus at this location, there's other locations that people can go to to be less impacted. And so my point is, I think we do take a great deal of care and caution, as well as compassion, in how we tag and tow vehicles, only when necessary. However, again, if people are a registration 7 months, out of registration, then the law is there. Our responsibility is to enforce that. That's why you guys pay us. So that's the result.
Can I be permitted to ask a question?
Before you do, I just want to ask, do you intend to change your policy based on what you heard here at all?
I think that we're doing this already.
So there is no change in policy anticipated? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, there's no policy change.
May I ask a
Can I
question?
just have a moment?
So,
She's first because she's
well,
in the vehicle.
I haven't had a chance to ask a question.
Hers is really
I
important.
gather that what you're saying is when someone like Elisa has a problem, she can come to the 15 minutes once a week, and that's what you can do. So that's my question. I want to
On
make
Monday between the hours of
I want to make one
Between the hours of 9 and 10:30, I keep open hours. Anybody is welcome to come in and sit down with me and explain their difficulty that they've had,
Monday through
and I'd be more than willing to listen to it.
And I think that's what we need to do a better job of letting people know. I also want to thank again the chief, and I do want to,
hang on, let Chief
and let me just finish. I do want to make a differentiation between some of the things like Ursula said that reflect governmental city council decision-making versus the responsibility of the chief.
We can talk about this when he's not here.
Okay, it sounds like you're closing the situation.
I just want to say, well, I completely appreciate your willingness to invite me to speak for those 15 minutes. If you're not willing to consider any type of policy changes or anything, like, it wouldn't do me any good to pour my heart out to you. And like, we're here today, like, I'm going to be honest with you. We're not here today because I've been treated compassionately. We're here today because I have been in my legally registered vehicle parked under 72 hours at locations, and I've gotten a lot of harassment. And I personally have witnessed Mr. Habe target RVs. Like, I almost feel like that man drives around, sees an RV, and goes, "Ooh, gotta get it." Like, it is a targeted harassment type situation, and I feel like that's where I'd like, I'm hearing from you, and I feel like I would like the change to come from is more compassion regarding that. Like, don't target us.
Okay, that's not a compassion.
Don't
That's not a
look
policy issue.
for directly, because I even had one of the officers, after he accused me of doing drugs or selling drugs, he realized I wasn't. He checked my record, realized I'm not that person. He walked all around my RV looking for things to try to do, and then he came back to me and he said, "Well, you're so clean right now, I can't even give you a ticket." But he was visually irritated by that. The fact that he looked really hard to give me a ticket, like, shows where his mindset was. Right. I just feel like that isn't compassion. Like, that's not.
But let me answer your comment. Okay?
And I understand, a stickler for the law, and we've got to do these things to keep our community safe. But there's a difference between that and what you're talking about as a happy medium.
So there's a difference between policy and procedure. So we want our people to be compassionate, regardless of a person's circumstances. Okay? But the policy that the city has is our responsibility to enforce. Now, if you don't like the policies or the laws or the ordinances, then you seek to have them overturned.
I'm definitely working on that, because I do feel like ticketing or citing anybody that's you can't prove has been there for 72 hours is like a form of harassment. I feel like if the person has not been there for 72 hours or more, you shouldn't bother them at all. Unless you've gotten a complaint about a crime.
Yeah, well, we get lots of complaints about infractions, about misdemeanors, about
But you're not keeping track of those either, though. Because I'd like to personally know how many have come in about my RV, because I want to prove if the number of police interaction I've got with them talking to me, knocking, would coincide with the amount of complaints. I have a really, really strong feeling that I've been talked to far more than have been complained about me, because I don't bother anybody, which would show a homeless targeted harassment.
Yeah, well,
So
we're
what's
not
going
going
to
to agree on that, okay? And
Yeah, you are.
and
Yes, you are. And a lot of people, guys, I think
what's
you
the
are.
issue here?
I think you are.
You're being rude, and you're trying to talk over people, including her. So, and I'm sorry that you're a victim of a violent crime, getting hit in the head. I know, I'm aware of the case.
6 months.
And
you haven't given me anything back yet, and told me where I can go get it either.
you can get it right here, but you won't be able to get it
I haven't been told
because
that by anybody.
you won't be able to get it because it's probably being held as evidence until we solve that crime.
Sounds good. Afterwards, I'd like to get all of my property back.
All right, listen, I've got a meeting at 2
Thank you
o'clock.
so much.
I appreciate your time.
So I apologize. You're right. I've been shot in the head, and I'm oppressed about it. I'm very angry about it. I'm not meaning to push
Thanks
it
for
on
at
you,
least
sir.
hearing me.
Thank you
I
very, very
appreciate
much,
being attacked.
everybody.
Because I hang
So
out-
I wanna
the
thank
thing with the Ross camp, is that likely to be more
Robert and
of those?
I'm sorry,
At
I'm
least,
so bad.
because there's like 3,000, there's like 3,000 people that are homeless in the city at least, right?
No.
How many? Well,
It's not, it's less than, it's probably right around 1,000 according to the last point in time.
okay, so 1,000.
There's 2,200 in the entire county.
So you can get maybe 70 people behind Ross. What are we doing for the other 95% of people?
A lot of people are
what are you
going to be
doing?
counted too. That's a large number. that
If
have
there were
been
owner
counted, I
permissed
guarantee it.
places to be, do you see the city administration accepting of that?
Yeah, that'd be up to them. But you know, it's one thing to fight the man, it's another thing to actually help people.
Right.
And I really want to get us as a community to help people.
Okay.
And so we've got a long way to go before we can help all those that truly need the help. So, all right, you have a good day, y'all.
Does it help with parking tickets at all, though? So before people disperse, everybody, before people disperse, general announcement.
We have to get this.
Lee, general announcement. We're trying, one of the
They're getting
purposes of this
$10 million.
meeting was to get the GM.
That's the action to be taken.
Is to organize people, Cynthia, so that they actually get together and begin to support each other. That's what this is. If you haven't signed this up and you're in your vehicle, or you have friends who are in your vehicle, sign up and get, do so. And you don't get your,
So thank you for.
So, are there comments people want to make about what they've heard?
So the police.
About what they've gotten out of this, if anything, about what we want to do next?
I don't really feel very.
I appreciate his willingness to come out, but he said exactly what I felt like he was going to say, and he's not willing to do anything. So here we are.
He's not in charge. We need to talk to Martine.
Yeah, there's other actions Robert does certain kinds of actions, and
We
there's
have to get to
other
his
kinds of
boss.
actions that other people do.
We have to get to
So
his
one of the
boss.
things we can do is try to get that fund so that everybody can be registered.
say that to the
would
city
take care of a
council?
lot of, issues. I guess people
council's the place
bored by
to take that up.
Sorry.
Right, I'll give you a weird one. Register to vote. Every time that you're pushed from a place, you put a location of where you're at, and we re-register at a new location after you're pushed out of that location.
Oh,
Because then it's with the feds,
good.
tracking with the feds even.
Awesome.
Or have a friend that has a mail address that you could have your mail sent to, and you could vote with that person's address.
Yeah. Well, but the legal description of the campsite is actually more citing your direct victimization.
So we're talking about collecting data, and so calling the hotline just to report something is a good idea because I can keep the list of that. These individuals who, want to fight it on their own isn't getting us anywhere, obviously. So if we have that, there's a few places you could contact where people will collect that data responsibly. It's like
And give the hotline again.
What's the phone number for radio audience?
It's 222-0359.
2220.
But the most important thing is that you can look it up on the internet at Santa Cruz Tenants, and most people have phones and use the internet on their phones. So just look up, Google Santa Cruz Tenants, and you'll come to my website, and it has both my phone number for the hotline and also my email.
222-0359.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Cynthia.
Just make a deal out of it.
Anybody else have any comments they want to make before I shut this down?
No, I
Yeah, I'd really like to find out when's the next city council meeting that we can bring this up. Talk about the $11 million they're getting, and possibly some of us could get some aid with our parking tickets. So I just need help with my parking tickets.
Yeah, I hear you.
My registration's out of date, and I'm in serious hot water right now. So there is announcement. There's one city council member who you can go visit who may pay some attention. That's Drew Clover, who has office hours that start in February. I'm not saying he is necessarily going to listen, but he's the only council member who responded to emails about this. He didn't show up, but he did respond. So.
He told me he heard me when I asked for a safe parking program. So
Okay.
I am hoping that he will get to work on that.